Welcome everyone. We are so happy to have Ali with us. Seem like most of our friends we interview are guys. I know we had Pastor Lee's daughter, so we're so happy to have Ali. So Ali, as we started earlier, we seem to share many things. So we both went to Cornell, and we both live in states like California, Texas, New York, and now in the DC, Maryland area. So I have so much in common with you. We love to learn more about you, and I'm fascinated by your double major. So you tell us more. Could you start by introducing yourself a little bit and your background to share with us?
Sure. So, hey everybody, nice to meet you guys. I'm Ali Zhang. I was born in Los Angeles in California, like Elaine just said. My family and I moved to Plano, Texas when I guess I was like 3 or 4, and I don't know if anyone else here is from the Plano area, but I went to Jasper High School, Plano West, had a really great childhood there, met a lot of great people, was really deeply involved in the in CCCFC there, doing a lot of church work. After that, I graduated and went to Cornell University for my undergrad, where I got a degree in Computer Science and Linguistics. And I just graduated last December, and now I've started my job as a software developer, and I moved to the DC area to get that going. So was that a good intro?
That's outstanding. Congratulations on your exciting new career. Tell us a little bit about what that software developer work is like.
Sure. So I work at MasterCard. Just started this past February, and it's been a really great experience for me. MasterCard is just a really great company doing all kinds of amazing things in the world of payment processing. I personally work as as part of their data processing work. So I do a lot of data cleaning and data analysis for them. Something that can help banks understand like who is using their credit cards and why, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys know or care about any of this interesting or maybe not so interesting information, but for me, it's been a really great first job to work at, and I'm really enjoying it.
That is great. We'll learn more. I think most of us know MasterCard, right? We all use credit cards. So definitely helpful.
Excuse me, I would say we are very interested in what kind of information you analyze and how do you help the business grow, and all the security problem like fraudulent expenses, all the stuff. How do you analyze? Yeah.
Oh yeah, everything you mentioned is a big part of it. So first, MasterCard receives like a table of credit card transactions that have been made using MasterCards all over the world. So like hundreds of millions a day, a massive amount of data. And then the eventual destination of this data is in a website that banks can use to sort of track the metrics of their spend. So like who is spending when and where, like how many transactions were fraud, like you said, how many were chargebacks, like whether their transaction was declined, their card was declined, like all kinds of interesting things that banks want to know. And basically our job is to make the data accessible to them, right? Like if there's so many credit card transactions, like hundreds of millions, it's kind of ridiculous to expect the website to be able to handle all of those at once. So what we do is decrease the amount of data, like compress the data and make it specific to each bank that needs it, so that, they can make that data easily accessible, basically.
So this is the big data.
Yeah, well, big in data.
Well, I'm saying the computer field now has a so-called expert in big data. Are you part of that part of work?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. I'd say this data is more like a typical like ETL pipeline, just putting it to like, basically our job as a team is to denormalize and map the data quickly. Sorry, I know I'm getting really like off track for the kids here.
Good, thank you.
But it's a really cool, and if anyone is interested, like please like ask more. I love to talk about it.
Well, that's great. In our remaining 40 minutes, let's learn more about your family and your growing up, because that's really where our students would like to see, oh, what did Ali do? How did she get here today? So start with your family. Tell us about your family members and your relationship with your family and your sibling.
Sure. So my parents are both from China. They moved here in I think the late 80s. My mother is from Jiangxi, and my father is from Fujian. So they settled here in California, where my sister was a young child when they moved here. My sister is about 31 or 32. Yeah, I don't know her actual age. That might be a bad sign for me. She's about 10 years older than me. So my sister was born in China, moved here with my family when she was young, and I was born in LA a few years after that. So once we moved to Texas, we all sort of grew up together and went to church together, did all the usual family stuff you'd expect together. I think one of my earliest memories is going to 4th of July parade with them. It was so much fun. Really had a wonderful time and like set my expectations for what life in Texas was going to be like. Very high, very high. But yeah, growing up, I was always really involved in church community. A lot of my friends were from there. Just had such a great time with everybody, and growing up, that really helped me stay grounded and grow into the person I am now.
Wow. Yeah, July 4th celebration is very special in Texas, right? In Texas style. That's
I got
great.
to
It
sit in a
actually,
fire truck. I was so amazed. I was like 3 or 4 years old. I was like, wow, I'm in a fire truck. And I'm driving the fire truck. Early memory. Early memory.
eye-opening. Yeah, Uncle Ming and I always celebrate the birthday together because mine is on July 4th and his is on nearby. So special day. So tell us about your church experience. You mentioned that you were involved, and how was it like?
Yeah, so I first started going to DCFC when I was young. So that's the Dallas Chinese community, Dallas Chinese Fellowship Church for anybody who's not from the area. Big Chinese community there. It's been there since before my family ever came to this area, and very well rooted. I went to church there every Sunday, went to the English service there, went to Awana. I was a long time Awana participant, and then later I became sort of like an assistant once I graduated from Awana. So I'm a really big part of that community. And then starting in high school, I also started going to CCCFC, which Collin County Chinese Fellowship Church, too many words. Met a lot of people there too as well. It was a little bit closer to our home, which is why we decided to make that switch. But both communities are really closely related and do a lot of work together. So I've really enjoyed every part of it.
Wow, you're very active and engaged. And CCCFC is Uncle Ming's church that he helped found. So that's a long time history. What are some things that you remember? You mentioned a few programs. How about relationship and fellowship, or what really hit you as an active church member?
Sure. Yeah. What really hit me was just like how caring everybody was, how much they are involved in everyone's lives to help them get through tough times in their life, or like to help them with things that they're doing. Like I know one of my friends, Diana Shao, I don't know if anyone here knows Diana, but like she's always been involved in like mission trips abroad and just helping others. And she always like asked the community to help pitch in with like prayers or money to help her, fulfill the Lord's will in whatever way she chooses. And it's just amazing the outpouring of support that she always gets. I'm really just admiring of her, and she's someone that I've known for a long time since my early years in school. So just like everyone in the community is like that. Everyone is just fantastic and great. And I really recommend to everybody here to see and look for ways that they can get involved and help out.
Wow, sound like a big family. Sound like a lot of good support and love for each other. And it seemed to me that it wasn't particular Sunday school lesson that really impressed you. It's really the relationship, the people,
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
experience that you enjoyed. That is so powerful. Thank you. So when you're busy in high school, of course, right? Very busy with studying and various types of activities. How do you juggle and still make the commitment to go to church, youth group, or Sunday while managing your school and activities and doing so well?
Well, yeah, it was tough for me for sure. In addition to school, I also played varsity tennis back then in high school. So it was tough. A lot of weekends I wasn't here. I couldn't go to church. I was away somewhere else in tournaments. But definitely what helped me then was just reading the Bible every Sunday. I had group chats where I would talk to people that I knew from church and communicate with them to basically help us stay on track and stay on with our lessons and whatever we were working on that week. That really helped me a lot. Also, at our church, we also had like Wednesday Bible studies, that sort of thing. That helped me a lot, like be able to be like, all right, today I'm going to do this. I'm going to read this and focus on this lesson today. That was a big help to me personally. Like, and I'll emphasize it again that relationships are key to how I interacted with the church, how I still interact with the church. I think that's what really draws people to it and makes it such a rewarding experience for everybody.
Wow. I hear your wisdom of knowing what's important to you, such as the Wednesday Bible study or the Sunday reading the Bible together, and you make time for it and not let any other busy schedule take over or compromise what's important to you. So that's a lot of wisdom, Allie. Thank you. So let's talk about getting ready for college, which we both love our school, Cornell. Go Big Red. So tell us, how did you choose Cornell and how did you prepare yourself to apply for Cornell?
Well, I've always been interested in computer science since I was really young. I don't know if anyone here played Neopets. I'm gonna just come out here and admit that I was a big Neopets player. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys are too young, but like in the early 2000s, this was like the thing that every kid was doing. And you could have your own website that you could like code up in HTML. I was obsessed with this. I had like a review site where I reviewed other people's websites and was really mean to them. So I was just obsessed with like having a nice looking website. And then from there just grew into a fascination for all things like coding, development, software. And then I became interested in Cornell because Cornell is such a strong CS program, just a strong engineering curriculum in general. And on top of that, as Elaine knows, the nature there is outstanding. The community there is wonderful. Just everyone there is just fantastic and incredibly intelligent. So that's what drew me to Cornell. And I think there was a second part to your question that I didn't hear.
We'll continue on. How did you prepare yourself?
Oh yes, how did I prepare myself? So there's just a lot of different things that go into preparing to apply to college. I probably can't give the best advice because I'm not like I'm not the most in tune with like college admissions processes and stuff. I just kind of did what everyone else told me to do. But I think that the most important thing is to show that you're a well-rounded person and to prepare for that through your actions in your day-to-day life leading up to your sophomore, junior year of high school. Like studies are important, absolutely. But on top of that, you should also show that, you know, that you have many other things going on in your life. That can be like volunteer service through your church or through another organization. That can be clubs that you're involved in. That can be sports or music that you do. Just something to show the people reading your application that you're someone who can communicate to that, who can contribute to the life of their school, not just the academics of their school, but to all parts of it, and to, you know, show that you have a vibrant soul that can, you know, enrich that community that you'd want to join.
That is so wise. So a lot of times, especially many of us who may be Asian and Chinese growing up here in America, we know how much we emphasize on grades, GPA and studying and academics and IQ. And yet Allie is saying, isn't that, it's important, but it's not the only thing. It's not necessarily even the most important, right? It's really how you contribute to the community at large. So Allie, I have done college admission interview for Cornell and Princeton for 21 years. So I am going to do a mock interview with you as if you're, or perhaps, you know, you already got in, but just replay your experience. I'm sure you've done the alum interview with the Cornell alumni, right? When you were applying.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember anything
sure
about it, unfortunately.
So we'll do it over again. But this time has no pressure because you already got in, you graduated, you're good.
That's the easiest interview you can have.
So actually, Uncle Ming and I will be speaking on college application this coming Thursday evening in Mandarin. And then next Thursday, we'll do again in English. I'll show the flyer a little bit later on if you're interested, to let your parents know, and you can join us next Thursday in English as well. So Allie, are you ready?
Always ready. Let's go.
Hi, Allie. Nice to meet you. I'm Elaine, and I enjoy looking forward to getting to know you.
Nice to meet you, Elaine.
So want to know about your decision process. How did you choose Cornell?
Well, as someone who's always been interested in computer science and linguistics, I find that the program that Cornell has for both of these is outstanding. I find that the community of students and faculty is just far above not only the other Ivy Leagues, but just so many other schools in the US in general. I just find that the community is fantastic, and that this is a community that I'd love to be part of and to contribute my own experience to.
Wow, so you did some research on our school. And I'm fascinated by the majors that you're planning to take, computer science and linguistics. Tell me about that. It seemed to be a STEM and then also a liberal arts combination.
That's right. Yeah. So computer science is something that I've been interested since I was, sorry, I think I'm echoing on somebody's computer. So just heads up to anybody. Yeah, computer science is something that I've been interested in since I was very young. And this is a part where I retell my whole Neopets thing again, because I feel compelled to explain that to everybody that I meet in the most obnoxious way possible. And then as for linguistics, I became interested in this in high school when I started studying French and Chinese and other foreign languages, that I became interested in the structure of languages. For those of you in the call who aren't aware of what linguistics is basically the study of languages. So not like learning a language per se. You don't have to learn other languages to be a linguistics scholar. You have to understand the structure of language, like how language is part of society, how language, changes over time, just like things about the nature of languages as a concept. And so my work with other languages made me interested in all languages and how they can grow. And I think Cornell's program in linguistics is one of the strongest among the Ivy Leagues, has some of the top linguists in the nation, and has just a lot of tools that can really benefit anyone who's interested in learning about how languages are spoken. So I think both of these majors are something that I've been interested in for a very long time.
Yeah, that is outstanding. It seems to me that you are both good at STEM, the science, the math, engineering. At the same time, you seem to be really good with reading and writing, to study the system. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's parts of computer science and linguistics that require both sides of the brain, right? Like in CS, obviously people think of CS as a STEM major or something that's technical. But on the other hand, you also need to understand how computers can benefit society, how you can use computers to enrich ordinary lives. And like to understand that, you have to understand how society works, how people interact with technology, that sort of thing. Just as an aside, my sister works in human computer interaction. She's a professor in that field. So got some personal, I guess, interest in that as well, just from the family side.
Well, that has some influence. That makes
sense. No, for sure. And then on the linguistics end, people think of linguistics as a liberal art or a social science, and it absolutely is. It is a social science, but that also means that in addition to understanding the artistic nature of language, you have to understand the scientific side of language, how people produce sounds with their mouth, how that can change depending on their upbringing, how they interact with each other, how different like how sentences are formed. There's actually like a lot of mathematics and logic that underlie syntax, the sentence structure of anything that a person says. There's so much complexity to both of these fields, and that's why I feel like they really challenge all sides of your mind to grow, and that's exactly why Cornell is the perfect place for it.
Wow, that sounds very compelling. It's, of course, when you study computer science, you learn languages too, different computer languages, right?
That's true. I didn't even make that connection. There's languages in both.
That's right. So tell me about yourself, Allie. How would you describe yourself?
I'd say describe myself as, oh, sorry, did I cut you off there? I got a little bit of a lag, so sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. It's hard to be doing interview over Zoom. So tell me about yourself in 3 adjectives to describe yourself.
Oh boy, 3 adjectives. Well, I'd say first, I'm curious. I love to learn new things. I'm curious about all different things, whether it's engineering, science, art, humanities, all those things really fascinate me. I'd say next that I'm diligent. I really work on getting things done. I don't feel like I have to, let things slide or let other people take credit for things that I worked hard on. And I'm really focused on finishing tasks and finishing them really well. And then lastly, I'd say I'm thoughtful. I'd say I do my best to make things work, to connect things in my mind, connect different ideas, connect different disciplines. And I want to make that shine in the way that I talk to others and portray myself. So I'd say all 3 of those are key to, how I see myself as a student in the world, how I see myself as a participant in society.
Wow, that is so deep. I admire how you know what to focus and prioritize on. Because this is a side commentary, not part of the interview, just to explain. In general, as I help people prepare for interview, applying to college or for work, I would look for the 3 types of qualities One is what Ali started with, a fast learner, curious, because we're always challenged to learn new things. You've got to demonstrate. And that's what we're supposed to be pretty good at. That's your IQ, that you're eager to learn, curious, stay hungry, and learning new things, and then solving problems, right? So there's a purpose and intention of learning is to solve problems. So that's what Ali described. And it's the top, first one I would expect, and we should all be able to explain that and give examples of that. And then the second would be adversity quotient, which is not afraid of failures and challenges. So Ali mentioned the diligent, regardless of how difficult it may be, she's committed. So that's a sign and an aspect of adversity quotient, not afraid of failures, because then you learn from your failures. Make sure you don't make the same mistake over and over and over again. And then the third one, you said thoughtful. So thoughtful in terms of both with things, and I would imagine also thoughtful in terms of working with people. You mentioned how you would learn and you would want to contribute. So that means a lot of people relationship as well. So the third one I look for is emotional quotient, having connections and thoughtful relationship that we talked about earlier. So thank you, Ali. That's the 3 good adjectives. So back to our interview. Switch chat back to the chat.
Completely out of my head.
Right on your feet, right? Think on your feet. So tell me, what is one most memorable and accomplishment that you are very proud of over your young life so far?
Okay, well, I guess I gotta put myself back in high school, let me think. Probably an event that I organized for the French club. So, I'm in high school, so I am in high school. Last year, as the president of the French club at Plano West, we had a very difficult time organizing events. It was just tough to get interest from, as you might know, there is a French expat community in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but it's pretty small. Our teacher is one of those. She's from Quebec in Canada. But it's just tough for us to find people that are interested in talking about the topics that we'd like to present to our members, or to introduce them to the different kinds of cultural aspects of French culture that they don't get to see often in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So myself and my co-president were just really struggling. We were very down in the dumps about how we could make events that were, interesting to people and could attract more members to our pretty small club. But then one day we were just working together with the club members, and all of us just got together, all 5 or 6 of us, and we just brainstormed ideas that we didn't need anybody else to help us with, that we could do together, things like baking, things like having a language corner to interest people in the club, things we could communicate with. We could actually cooperate with other clubs to do something cool. We set up a pen pal thing with the computer club, which I was also a member of at the time. So just things that we could do to get involved in the community that didn't mean we had to be dependent on people from outside to help us. That was a really big stepping stone for me, in that I realized that I didn't have to wait for other people to make steps for me, but that I could do that on my own, that I could collaborate with people that I was close to, who I could ask for advice, that I could grow from. And the end was a smashing success. We got a lot done. We had a ton of members join our club that week, and it was just a great experience for everybody. So definitely one of the moments I'm proudest of.
Wow, what a fascinating story, Ali. And here's a explanation channel. So we switch off from the interview. The way that Ali described it, it's exactly the model that we want to tell any story, whether in interview or in interaction in a more serious and professional manner. And I call that SOAR, S-O-A-R, situation, obstacle, action, and result. And if you think back to what Ali shared in this proud experience, she did exactly that. She started saying on the situation about the French club that she's leading, and the obstacle was very difficult to get membership and funding and such. And the action she took was not to wait for other people. She took the initiative and worked as a team and came up with creative ideas. And then the result, she said, smashing success. And I'm sure if she's more prepared, she could quote you numbers. A ton of members means, so try to include numbers in your results, right? It changed from 10 members to 70 members, things like that. And it's helpful to do a compare and contrast, a before and an after. Before, it was difficult, was no growth in the membership and all the obstacle. And then the action that Ali took was proactive. And that's what Uncle Ming told us a few weeks ago, right? Focusing on proactive and not to wait for other people. And then the result, the after, is the fast growing membership and smashing success. So congratulations, Ali. And Ali and I didn't prepare this, and I did not tell her this. So she's really doing it as a good example. So good job.
Thank you.
Back to the interview channel. So Ali, would you say there's an area that you need to work on? I'm sure you're very accomplished, very successful, and I know we're not perfect. So what would be one area that you want to work on?
I'd say an area that I want to work on is that I have a hard time dealing with failure. I'm sure that's something that many people on this call can relate to. Many people in general in the world have this struggle, but it's tough to fall short, to feel like you didn't get to where you need to be, and to feel like somehow that was like, something that you must take responsibility for all on your own. That's something that I struggled with a lot. I think one example was, I think I was in middle school. I had failed a test. I know, such a tragic and horrifying moment, failing one math test. It was actually just a huge blow to my mental health back then. I was really young. I was the same age as a lot of you guys on this call right now. I had never really grew up really sheltered, didn't really have an experience with failure on, even such a minor level as like schoolwork. But what helped me in that situation, and what has continued to help me as I grew up and continue to experience these conflicts, is understanding that I'm not actually alone. That it's okay to mess up, that your life goes on, that other people can help you through that situation, and that you can still achieve, even greater success after, experiencing failure, because the failure teaches you something. Like I learned from the failed math test that I needed to study in a different way, to, that something that matched my personal learning style, that I needed to change how I was acting. And that worked for me, and if I fail to, attract members to the French club, it's not because, there's something wrong with me as the president, it's because I just need to change my approach. I need to not think about the expat community, about attracting people from outside our school to come help when they're busy and have other things in their lives, but instead think about ideas that can actually benefit the students that we work with. Things like that showed me that failure isn't like a personal failure. It's not like a failure of your, intrinsic characteristics, but rather something that you can grow from to change how you interact with the world.
Wow, that is really not an easy journey. Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent to share that. So let's go to the different channel to go deeper in this topic, not as part of the interview. Typically, college interview wouldn't go into that personal, but I want to really take advantage of this topic that Ali started, because I know it's very deep, very relevant, and many of us can relate to. So let's go deeper. And I really appreciate what you share. And that's what I mentioned earlier on the 3 qualities: IQ, AQ is the middle one. And that's exactly what you just explained. Adversity quotient, that you're not afraid to fail. But we all have failed and will continue to fail. And you explained to us how important it is to rise above the failure itself and don't take it so personally. And I like how your perspective is to look at it from the broader and bigger picture. First, it's okay to fail. Accept that, acknowledge it, because we all make mistakes, right? And then you accept it, and then you say, hey, what can I learn from it? And what can I help myself and others to be better? How did you get to that thinking process?
Yeah, I think what helped me in that situation was people around me, my friends and family. They always were more forgiving of me than I am. And I think you'll probably notice that in your own life. Whenever you're blaming yourself for something, someone will come along and give you a hug, tell you, hey, it's not your fault. You're beating yourself up over something that's completely meaningless in the grand scheme of things. That really helped me. Like my parents were like, hey, it's literally one math test. You are being such a baby right now. And I totally was. They were completely right about that. It didn't matter that I had failed a math test. I mean, look at me now. Like, I don't even remember what the test was about. Like, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And what it mattered in the sense that it was a learning opportunity for me, and that, people were around me to support me through it, to help me through my mental health, to just encourage me to grow. I think that was what really set me on the path to understanding what failure meant for me, and what I could do about it.
Right. And you're going to fail again, right? And you know how to
Absolutely.
handle it.
Absolutely.
What a rich set of wisdom and nuggets that we can all hang on to. So surround yourself with people who care about you, support you, like your parents, your friends, and especially those from church could pray with you as well together. And then look at the big picture, right? It's only one little blip in your life, and now you even forgot. So it's okay. It's quote unquote no big deal, and move on, right? And the key is to learn and grow from it. Wow, so much wisdom. I don't know if Uncle Ming or Dr. Lee have others you want to ask about this point, because I think this is a very important point.
Well, I think this actually, from spiritual point of view, I think it had a lot to do with she go to church. So inside of always have a two self there. One is belong to the brain, all your value system, all your experience. But then you also have an inner being. So when you have a reflection, you actually have the inner being talk to your outside self. So you always have a two self. I think maybe Ali didn't recognize it, but the truth is that God's working on her inner being to bring her back to the normal track where God wanted to go. I think through the rest of her life, she continued that journey. And then through that journey, she's going to be closer and closer to God. So it's actually, that's what the power of God created us human being. We can always do reflection, always correct the other part of self. Sooner or later, when the other part of self completely aligned, tuned to the inner self, then you got bam, big success. That's the way I see it. I cannot imagine how mature Ali is. It's just too amazing to me.
How about Dr. Lee, Pastor Lee?
Yeah, Ali, thank you very much for sharing. I really enjoyed it. And you mentioned that, especially about the failure. A lot of young people that we would tie our success or failure with our faith. Let me be more specific. That is, we will pray, oh God, I have this final exam coming up, and I pray that if you help me, and if I need to get this, or I need to get into a certain school. And if we fail in the one exam, a lot of people that would say, hey, God is not helping me at all. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pain and conflict internally that goes into people making those statements. Like they were relying on somebody, God, to help them through this, and that person, well, not person, but you know what I mean? This can be applied to anybody, not just God, but anybody that you feel like you rely on. That person didn't show up for you when you needed them to, but what you have to understand is that sometimes there is a bigger reason for things, not everything has to go the way that you thought it would, and that's okay, because like I said earlier, failure, what you perceive as a failure in the short term can have a greater meaning in the long term. And that's why, relying on someone else completely dependently, isn't what God wants you to do, right? You're not supposed to ask God for, well, I should say not supposed to, but it's better not to ask God for things that, you feel like are important to you right now, but that may not, be what is necessary for you to grow as a person, grow spiritually, grow in your life. I think that's what I take away from that when people say those things, but I also understand and sympathize that, sometimes it can be very painful to come to terms with that sort of thing, because, life is full of ups and downs, and that's something that's very hard to deal with, for sure, for anybody at any time.
Youth camp on Zoom. So in the last few minutes, and you'll come back again next week, I want to see if there are other questions from anyone in the audience, so feel free to type in the chat. And Ali, if you could also share what is from your heart, what do you think is the most important for the youth in this audience to really take away as one point, the most important, as you look back to your youth life? And then there's one question from the chat. What would you do differently if you get a second chance? So 2 questions in our closing.
Yeah, I think my answer to both those questions is the same. What can young people take away from this meeting, and what would I do differently? I think both of those are the same answer for me, which is that I would not be so concerned about college in my future. And that may sound ironic after I just spent like 45 minutes talking about college and my job. But at the end of the day, I realize now looking back that I was just very obsessed with academic success, very obsessed with like how I was doing compared to other people. You know, it was just a really toxic mindset in high school, feeling like I had to be better than everybody else, that I had to, you know, always do good at this, you know, be great at tennis, be great at school, be like the most amazing person at church, like all of this just like to prop myself up in preparation for college. And like looking back, that's not what was good for me growing up. It wasn't like a healthy mindset to grow like as a teenager, you know, moving into adulthood. And I had to sort of step back later on and realize that, you know, when I was in college and I was very stressed out, that I was like, I'm stressing myself out and I'm doing this to myself, you know? And I think that there are ways that you can, you know, get into a good school and like, you know, have a well-rounded life without pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion and thinking about college and SATs literally 24/7. So I'm just looking at all of you in the audience right now. If that's what you're doing right now, you need to look back and realize that these are the only years of your childhood that you'll ever have, that they're incredibly they're incredibly memorable and like valuable in themselves, that you'll look back with them and like feel nostalgic later on. So you should, you know, take some time off, relax, and feel that you're a person who's, you know, having like a full life without constantly thinking about what's coming in the future.
Wow,
Wow. Go ahead,
that's such a beautiful conclusion. I love it. It's so amazing. See, I'm 70 years old. I've been through so much. I think Alice's conclusion is great. You can still accomplish what God planned for you, but you don't have to suffer so much. You don't have to stress yourself. No, when you stress yourself so much, long term might have some negative impact. But you can enjoy your life and still get what you want. I think this is just wonderful. I learned so much from you, Ali. Praise the Lord, we got you on the screen. It's just great. It's just
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you, Ming.
And thank you for being so vulnerable and so honest. So based on what you share with us, I came up with an acrostic. Most people know that I'm very big fan of acrostic. I heard in terms of overall, I got to zoom alert. It's not showing, right?
We saw it.
I saw it for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it still there? Because I think they may kick me out.
No, the PowerPoint.
Seeing a black screen.
Yeah, so that's what happened at times. And back in. So anyway, so the message and the lesson I learned, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very well.
Okay, so I'll continue. I think this time will be okay. So I heard that we want to rise above the occasion and not get dragged down by whatever you may be faced with, including various type of peer pressure. And of course, our parents want us to do well, and we should do our best, and we know God will do the rest. But don't be so stressed with just thinking about getting to the best college. Do your best, right? And still enjoy your life and grow. So I heard from Ali, RISE, RISC, relationship. We heard so much from the beginning to the end. Relationship with your family, with your friends, helping each other, praying for each other. And then I is inspiration from God, right? From his word, from the Holy Spirit, and just walking alongside, giving you purpose, giving you wisdom. And then see the big picture. Whatever you're going through, it's a blip in the grand scheme of things, right? And then encourage others. Ali always said, how can I contribute to the college community, to the family, to the church, to the society? So I give all this to you all. Let's all learn to rise above the occasion. So let's give a big hand to Ali for her first session with us today. And she'll come back next week, and Uncle Ming will continue, and Pastor Lee will continue the interview. I'm so honored and happy to meet with you, Ali. We're going to have to keep in touch and be friends.
I saw one more question in the chat that I can answer if we have time.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Janice, I think you asked, what did your parents do / help that you feel like it was very helpful to you to grow as a person? Yeah, I definitely haven't mentioned my parents enough in this presentation. I think a lot of you being young probably interact with your parents, you know, on the daily, on the regular. So I'd say that my parents did for me that I greatly appreciated growing up was that they always encouraged me to do what I loved. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's not always what parents do for you. Sometimes they're not always supportive of you in the way that you want. So I'm grateful that my parents were always there for me. They always supported me unconditionally, and they let me explore the things that I was passionate about, which led to me getting the degree that I always dreamed of. I'd say that, you know, not obviously, like, this isn't going to be everyone's family experience. I'm not saying this to like degrade anyone else's like relationship with their family. Just to say that if those aren't the kinds of parents that you have, that you should find people in your life that do that for you, that support you, and that help you grow. You know, and I think that regardless of your own family situation, that's something that we can all look for and experience.
Wow.
So Ali, let me ask you the same thing similar. If you use a few adjectives to describe your relationship with your parent or your parents, what adjective you would use?
I don't know if I have adjectives. I feel like it's so complicated that I can't boil it down. But just like everybody else, I have conflicts with my parents. We disagree on a lot of stuff, fight a lot. Well, we don't fight as much now that I moved away, so we don't have to look at each other all the time. But I would say that, you know, despite all of our different disagreements on different things, some more serious than others, we still love each other so deeply and so, you know,
Right.
importantly, that we always come back to each other, you know, no matter what happens. That I know that if anything happened to me, that they would be there in an instant. And the same thing, if anything happened to them, I'd be there right away, you know. And especially with the pandemic, with everything that's been going on this past year, it's so important to have those relationships in your life. And yeah, again, like, it doesn't have to be family, like, it doesn't have to be your parents. It can be anybody in your life that is like that for you. I think we just need that sort of love in our life, especially now. And that's what I was always so grateful for.